Okay, today's video is a very serious one. It is nothing to joke about, it's nothing to find funny, it's nothing to take lightly. We're discussing the Epstein files and the recent news about Thomas Roth being present in them files, shall we say. I'm sure everyone at this point knows who Jeffrey Epstein is, what he's done, and the car crash of events that are unfolding since his death. So for those of you who don't know, Jeffrey Epstein was first arrested in Florida in 2008. This was following a police investigation in 2005 surrounding claims that he paid an underage girl for prostitution. I am very opinionated, so I don't want to offend anyone, but the first thing I want to say is that prostitution and a 13-year-old girl, those two things don't go together, okay? If you're a 13-year-old girl, you are not mentally able to give consent to the point where you would be doing anything that would be prostitution. She is a victim. This 13-year-old girl did not choose to do the things that she was made to do, okay? She is a victim of Jeffrey Epstein. And I don't feel like it's right to call it prostitution when she's the victim of a crime. So we're not going to call it that. We're going to call it for what it is. But with that in mind, I know that YouTube is very strict on what you can talk about and the words you can use, so I am going to be very careful. In my mind, as it is right now, I'm just going to discuss what we're going to discuss, and then in post-production, when I'm editing and all that, then I will blank out the words, just to keep it as respectful as possible, because of course it is a very sensitive subject. It's a disgusting man we're talking about. And I don't want to ruffle any feathers as far as YouTube's concerned, and people who might be watching this video who don't necessarily want to hear some specific words. So following this police investigation in 2005, Jeffrey was arrested in 2008. He took a plea deal for this and ended up only serving 13 months. 13 months is in itself hard to wrap your head around. How has he only had to serve 13 months for the horrific crimes that he has done? At this point in 2008, everything he'd done hadn't come out yet. But even just taking into account the thing he's actually been convicted for in 2008, that is not a worthy sentence. For a man, I use the term loosely when I say man, because let's be honest, he's not a real man. He was never a real man. I won't even say he's human for the things that he's done. 13 months is nothing. That victim, that poor victim, is going to have to live with what has happened to her for the rest of her life. That itself is a life sentence for her. Why should Jeffrey Epstein only get 13 months? His should be a life sentence too. He should have had a life sentence. There should have been no, oh, you can take a plea deal and have 13 months and then you're free to just live your life doing the things you've been doing before. No. He should have had a whole life sentence. He should never have been allowed to leave prison. Because this is such a sensitive subject, I'm not going to subject you to just me talking about the history of Jeffrey Epstein and what his crimes were, what he did, the timelines and all of that. If you don't know and you want to do your own research, feel free. But in today's video, we're just going to be discussing the emails between Thomas Roth and Jeffrey Epstein. Because despite everything that's coming out about Jeffrey Epstein, every new thing that comes out leaves me in such a state of disbelief, disgust, and helplessness. People we thought we knew, brand owners that we thought we knew, being involved with someone as disgusting, disgraced as Jeffrey Epstein, makes me feel like I just don't know anything. I can't trust anyone. It's really making me feel like the richest of the richest people are like that, all the same. Got so much money, you're not getting a thrill from buying new things, so what, you're going to go out and commit these horrible crimes? Nothing's good enough for you, so you feel you need the rush from somewhere else. And I feel disgusted at myself for even saying that. But that is genuinely what I think. They've got all this money, all this power. Everything they've done before is boring to them now. They want something that they know they can't have and they shouldn't have. And in this case, it's young girls. So if you have been following this story, then you will know that recently the Department of Justice in America, around the 30th of January, released 3.5 million pages from communication between Jeffrey Epstein and various people. One of these people, of course, being Peter Thomas Roth himself. A skincare brand owner that has been around for a long time. But not only that, a former pupil of Jeffrey Epstein's. So around the 1970s at Dalton School in New York, Jeffrey Epstein was actually Peter Thomas Roth's physics teacher in 12th grade. Peter has actually described Jeffrey previously as brilliant and like a friend. Predators in general are very good at hiding who they are, especially to people that they're not intending to have as their victim. Peter's dad actually hired Jeffrey as a private tutor for statistics. And with everything that's come out, as a parent, it makes me feel so sad for his dad, not knowing initially the kind of person that Jeffrey is. He may not have known what kind of person he is all the way up until it all came out, it all became public knowledge. And if that is the case, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. And that for me makes me feel sad, because the last thing you want to do as a parent is put your child in harm's way, or have anyone around your child who just isn't wired right like Jeffrey Epstein was. There must be some kind of chemical imbalance or something in your brain that makes you think things like this are okay. After the release of these 3.5 million pages from the Epstein files, it came to light that Peter Thomas Roth was not only friends with him, not only taught by him in 12th grade, not only had him as a private tutor for statistics, but he was also in communication for years after. And how many years after, you might ask yourself? All the way up to 2008. All the way up to 2008. Which, as we've discussed, is when he was first arrested for his disgusting crimes. I'm just going to read you some of these emails between Peter and Jeffrey, because without knowing what they say, you might be in the mindset of, okay, it might be innocent. It might just be the fact that he used to teach him and they've stayed in contact. That was my original thought. But let's just go through these emails. So this first one is from Friday the 12th of October 2007. So just bear in mind whilst I'm reading this, that this was a year before Jeffrey Epstein was first arrested for his disgusting crimes, but also 2 years after the police had already started their investigations into him. Me personally, in my opinion, I don't know if this is true, but I'd imagine that Jeffrey was aware the police were investigating him for whatever reason. Maybe he might not have known the specific reason, but in my opinion, I definitely think that he'll have known. Therefore, people around him, people involved with him, will also know. So Friday the 12th of October 2007, Peter Thomas Roth emails Ghislaine Maxwell. I'll call her G because I don't actually know how to pronounce her name and I don't care enough about her to find out how to pronounce it. G. Please tell Jeffrey how very sorry Noreen and I are for him and how terrible we feel for him. We totally feel he was set up to be made an example of. How very sad for him and for all of us. Please also let him know we know he did nothing wrong and will always love him and be our friend forever. If he ever needs anything from us, or if he needs us to do anything for him, please get in touch with us and we will always be there for him. Always in capitals. Anything. Promise. XXOO Peter. Yep. How very sad for him and for all of us. What do you mean by that? Because I'll tell you now, in my head, in my opinion, you saying something like that around the time that a police investigation is going on for crimes against a 13-year-old girl, yeah? I'm gonna say Peter knew exactly what he'd been doing. Peter is involved in it, and that's why he's saying how very sad for us. What? You're sad because your friend forever cannot continue being a predator because he's now being investigated. Is that what's sad? Please also let him know we know he did nothing wrong and will always love him and be our friend forever. So first of all, what I'm getting from that, Peter, is that you know fuck all. Because if you did, you'd know that your friend forever is a predator. And you know what? Predator, the word predator doesn't even touch what he is. The devil himself is what I'd refer to him as. Jeffrey Epstein. In his last interview, where they outright asked him, "Are you the devil?" And he smiled. In my opinion, again, that's an involuntary facial expression that he's just done because he knows deep down that is exactly what he is. He's a predator. He's the devil personified. The lowest life form. The next email between them that I have found is from the 16th of September 2017. Now, I want to know personally where all the communication is between 2007 and 2017. That's 10 years. That's a 10-year gap. Are you seriously trying to tell me that they had no communication in them 10 years? I don't believe that. I don't believe that for a second. Maybe it's me and my mindset now over all of this, but I feel like they were in contact every other day. Predators surround themselves with people that are like them. Predators. Disgusting, disgraceful humans. Are you? Because there's murderers in this world that wouldn't do the things that Jeffrey Epstein has done. Does that not tell you something? So this one from the 16th of September 2017, where Jeffrey wrote, "Sunday at 2, Peter Thomas Roth is coming to my house to explain to all the girls about skin creams, cleansers and such. You are welcome." First of all, why have you got a house full of girls? We know the answer to that, don't we? Because he's a predator. So I'll let you decide why them girls are there. Why he has girls at his house to start with. But adding to this, Jeffrey Epstein is no skincare brand owner. He's no expert in skincare. He's never made it his mission to be promoting skincare to little girls. That were never his goal, to try and get girls to be using the right products for their skin. So I'll let you decide why them girls were there, and why he was so excited about having someone come over and explain to the little girls in his house what these certain products do and how to use them. And just to add to the disgusting vibes and just fucking horrible feeling that you get from these men, they're not referring to them as women. And I wonder why. Again, more evidence that they were doing things that they shouldn't have been doing. Because why do you, as a grown man, have girls in your house? Women, okay. Girls. Girls meaning not yet women. Underage. So following this, I have found another one that was from 2018. Let's look at that. On the 28th of Feb 2018, Peter emailing Jeffrey saying, I sent you a little care package of 6 of each of my new Hungarian moisturiser and mask for your team to try. Also, a dozen of the current February and March issues of the magazines my ads are in. Please note, Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue, Vogue, Bazaar, People, etc. My favourites. Just to put a smile on your face. I'm having fun. I'm gonna say it. What the fuck does skincare have to do with a swimsuit issue? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Zero. Nothing. So that little added detail in his emails about, oh, my favourites to put a smile on your face. Swimsuit. Swimsuit issue. What has that got to do with your skincare brand, Peter? Huh? It's got fuck all to do with it, has it? So Jeffrey replies to this email in probably the only way he knows how to. Thanks. Great. Fun. Who is the new victim? To which Peter replies saying, I have none. I am not going to have anybody in this world try gaslight me into thinking that that is anything but sinister. What do you mean? Who is the new victim? You've actually used the word victim. Let's just look at the actual definition of victim, shall we? The definition of victim from Oxford Languages: a person harmed, injured or killed as a result of a crime, accident or other event or action. Jeffrey Epstein is many things, but I don't believe for one second that he doesn't know the definition of victim. So with that in mind, I think it's safe to say that we know what he was asking there. We know what he meant, more importantly. And I just want to talk about the response from Peter as well. I have none. Full stop. Previous emails, he writes almost like a teenage girl, as ironic, if that's the right word, as it is. He, from previous emails, appeared upbeat, happy, and I feel he'd use lots of words to just describe something really short. You know, his emails wouldn't be short and straight to the point like that response was. So in my head, that does tell me that he is being serious. I don't know if I'm explaining this properly, but it's like previous emails from Peter were very MSN. Like a young teenage girl messaging a friend on MSN. lots of text and kind of getting his mood through what he's writing. In that sentence, that 3-worded sentence, "I have none," says so much more to me than just those words. I feel like through that email I can feel some kind of disappointment in himself. Maybe just resigned to not being able to find a victim. It's weird, it's sinister, it's disgusting. And the sad part is this is probably just the tip of the iceberg still. All of these unreleased files, what do they contain? What we've seen that has been released is this bad. What are they hiding? What are they holding back? So, you know, following all of this being brought to light, Thomas Roth, the brand, put out a statement. Let's read that because at this point I have no words. Or I have words, but it's not really anything I can say online. So this is a post from 4 days ago, like I've said, on the Thomas Roth Instagram page. Of course, comments are being turned off, and the caption just says, "A message from our CEO." It says, "Jeffrey Epstein was my physics teacher when I was 17 in the 12th grade at the Dalton School. We stayed in touch casually in the nearly 5 decades that followed. I visited Epstein's Manhattan residence once to show him some skincare products that I shipped to him at his request and left after a brief meeting in his dining room. I was never present with him for any activity that was inappropriate, never attended his parties, never flew on his plane, and never travelled to his island. When allegations surrounding Epstein's behaviour first surfaced, I was in disbelief that he could commit such heinous crimes. I was gravely mistaken. I'm horrified by the crimes he committed and the lasting impacts they have had on his victims, and I deeply regret maintaining any association with him after leaving the Dalton School. Thomas Roth." Few issues with that. First one being, he deeply regrets staying in contact with him when everything surfaced. Jeffrey Epstein, as we know, was first arrested in 2008. The last 2 emails that we've just read between them both was 2017 and 2018. Now, I'm not good at maths, but I know that those 2 years are after 2008, when he was arrested for committing these crimes against a 13-year-old girl. So, if we know that, as, you know, the public, why don't you, as a supposed good friend, know this information? Because you did, Peter. That's because you did, yeah? That's because you did know, but you still chose to be friends with him because, in your own words, you love him. He is the best friend, and he will be your friend forever. So that's my first issue there, yeah? My next issue here, something that I came across when I was reading up about this, was the fact that Thomas Roth's family owned spas and resorts in Hungary. You know, that would be innocent. You know, that could be innocent if it wasn't for the fact that Jeffrey Epstein has been known to be sending emails specifically asking about these Hungarian girls. Thomas Roth's family are said to have owned, these spas and resorts in the early 1900s. They came over from Hungary to the US in 1939, I think it was. But there still is that connection there. Of course, Peter's always going to have that connection with Hungary. So whether they owned these places or not is besides the point. That is not what matters here. What is relevant is the connection, the relationship between Jeffrey, Peter, and these girls. So doing a little bit of research, I've come across this. There are numerous exchanges in which Epstein was commenting on girls, including several Hungarian ones whose photos had been sent to him by unnamed individuals. Daniel Syed, who worked as a model scout, or claimed to be one, appears nearly 2,000 times in the documents. In one of his emails to Epstein in 2009, he asked Jeffrey for money to spend the next few months in Slovakia, the Czech Republic, Poland and Hungary, where he wanted to look for girls in small villages. How much clearer does it need to be? Jeffrey is a predator. He's surrounded by people who support his disgusting behaviour, because I don't believe that not one person around him at that time, at any of these times, didn't suspect anything. Always trust your gut feeling, okay? Trust your gut instinct, because 9 times out of 10 it is right. I know it sounds really stupid to kind of base things off gut instinct, but if you are friends with someone and you are close to someone who is doing the horrible things, the disgusting, depraved things that he has been doing, you're gonna pick up on something. Yes, he is the devil personified, but he cannot hide what he is. I don't believe he could have hid his real self from the people that were closest to him. I'm not saying Peter was close to him in any way, but he was close enough to be having regular email interactions. Again, there's that period of between 2007 to 2017 where there's not much known. There's not much information out there. I can't find any emails between that in that 10-year gap. So what was really going on? Because yeah, you can be friends with people. You can go like a year without talking to them and still be friends. But to have no contact with someone for 10 years, followed by 2 emails that looked like they've been in contact fairly recently, there's something not right. So Daniel Syed concluded that letter by saying, "I will make you a great surprise when you come to Paris." Epstein and Syed were in contact for years. In a message from 2015, for example, the businessman asked what had happened to the Hungarian girl. There is also a reference to a certain Daniel and his Hungarian girl or girls in several messages. The name Daniel was also mentioned in Epstein's correspondence with the Hungarian girl, where she sent pictures and videos of herself to Epstein, and after he expressed interest, she wrote that she had broken off her relationship with Daniel's friend, who treated her like a dog. Epstein then asked her what she wanted for her birthday, and she replied that she wanted money. That's another thing. Jeffrey Epstein is not going to be giving anyone money out of the kindness of his heart. There's some ulterior motive. He's not doing anything out of the kindness of his heart because he doesn't fucking have one. He's the devil personified. A piece of shit. So that's what I've read that's been brought to light recently. I think it goes without saying, I will never buy from Thomas Roth. I don't own anything from the brand anyway, so this will be the easiest boycott I have ever done, ever experienced. And you know what? Even that statement that they've put on their Instagram page, what is that? All you're doing there is confirming what everybody knew. Your little lines between the words of surrounding the "I am horrified" part, I think is just there to draw people's attention to the words, to make them feel like you really are horrified. But are you? How can you be so horrified at someone who you have been involved with, still remained in contact with, after finding out that he'd been arrested for doing these disgusting, disgraceful things? There is nothing anyone can say to convince me that he didn't know about the type of person he was. He didn't know what he was doing. In my opinion, Peter Thomas Roth knew exactly the type of man that he was friends forever with. So you've made your bed, you can lie in it. You've dug your grave, lie in it. It doesn't feel right to do any kind of outro after a video like this, so I'm not going to, but I do want to know your thoughts and opinions. So if you do have anything to share, let me know in the comments, and let's just hope and pray that there's no more people involved that we really, really least expected. Brand owners, people we thought we could trust. Everything is coming out. It's bound to. It does. It will. It is. And as shit as everything is in the world right now, I think it's important that we keep talking about it. It's important that we don't just let it be swept under a carpet and forgotten about. People paid to shut up. I hope you can take something from this video and it hasn't brought down your mood too much, but I just feel it's so important to talk about, because if we don't, who's going to? These people aren't, are they? They'll do everything they can to just hide what they've done and have no one ever talk about it. But we're here, we're discussing it, and I'll carry on. Love you, and I will see you in my next one.